13-year-old girl pregnant, rushed to the emergency room. She revealed a truth to the doctor. Clara, a 13-year-old girl, was sitting on her bed with a pale face. "Mom, it hurts so much." Clara whimpered, her voice weak. Isabella, Clara's mother, was busy in the kitchen but rushed upstairs the moment she heard her daughter's cry. As soon as she saw Clara, her heart clenched. The girl's face was ghostly white, her eyes brimming with tears. "Clara, what's wrong?" Isabella cried out in panic, kneeling beside her daughter and placing a hand on her forehead. Ice cold. Clara didn't answer. She only gripped her mother's hand tightly, her fingernails digging into Isabella's skin. The pain was so unbearable that she could hardly breathe. "Mrs. Isabella, what's going on?" A voice called from the doorway. Mrs. Rose, Isabella's neighbor, had been passing by when she heard the desperate cries. She saw Clara trembling, her lips turning blue, and immediately stepped inside. "Mrs. Rose, I don't know. She's been complaining of stomach pain since morning. I thought it was just indigestion. But now. Oh God, she can't take it anymore." Isabella trembled, wrapping her arms around Clara. "We need to get her to the hospital right away," Mrs. Rose said firmly. Without hesitation, Isabella tried to help her daughter up. But the moment Clara's feet touched the ground, her body convulsed violently, and she collapsed unconscious in her mother's arms. "Clara! Clara! Wake up, sweetheart!" Isabella screamed. Mrs. Rose immediately ran outside, calling for help. Andrew, a young man working at the nearby grocery store, heard the commotion and rushed over. "What's wrong, Mrs. Rose?" "Get your truck. Take Isabella and her daughter to the hospital right now. The girl is in critical condition." Andrew didn't hesitate. He sprinted home, grabbed his keys, and within 2 minutes, his old truck screeched to a stop in front of Isabella's house. Isabella, her hands trembling, struggled to lift Clara, but she wasn't strong enough. Andrew quickly stepped in, scooping the girl into his arms and laying her gently in the truck. "Drive fast, to St. James Hospital," Mrs. Rose urged. Andrew slammed on the gas. The truck roared to life and sped off, the wind howling past. Isabella clung to her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "Don't be scared, baby. I'm right here. You're going to be okay." But Clara remained completely still, her breathing faint. Isabella could feel the erratic rhythm of her daughter's heartbeat, fear tightening around her chest. The small hospital was over 30 minutes away. When they finally arrived, Isabella practically jumped out of the truck, screaming for help. "Please. Help my daughter." A group of nurses rushed over immediately. Dr. Anna, a middle-aged woman with curly hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward to assess the situation. She quickly gave instructions. "Take the girl to the emergency room, now." Clara was whisked away on a stretcher. Nurses scrambled to attach monitors, insert and for. Isabella clutched Dr. Anna's hand. "Doctor," she was in excruciating pain, then she passed out. "I don't know what's happening." Dr. Anna spoke calmly. "We'll run tests immediately. Please try to stay calm." But how could Isabella stay calm? She watched helplessly as her daughter disappeared behind the emergency room doors, her heart breaking. Isabella collapsed onto a chair outside, gripping the fabric of her dress tightly. Mrs. Rose sat beside her, gently patting her shoulder. "Clara is strong. She'll get through this." Isabella didn't respond. Her eyes remained fixed on the doors of the emergency room, where her daughter was fighting against an unknown agony. Inside, Dr. Anna and her team worked relentlessly. The heart monitor beeped steadily. Clara gasped for breath, sweat pouring down her face. "We need a blood test immediately," Dr. Anna ordered. A nurse named Michael nodded and quickly drew a blood sample. Meanwhile, Dr. Anna examined Clara closely, her instincts telling her something was very wrong. Check her abdomen for any abnormalities. Another nurse gently lifted Clara's hospital gown and palpated her lower stomach. The moment they applied pressure, Clara let out a piercing cry, her eyes fluttering open, filled with tears. "Doctor, please, help me," she whimpered. Dr. Anna took Clara's hand, speaking softly. "Sweetheart, where does it hurt the most?" Clara didn't respond, her lips pressed together in agony, her body trembling. Just then, Michael returned with the blood test results. He placed them on the table, his expression shifting. "Dr. Anna. These results." Dr. Anna grabbed the papers and scanned them quickly. Her eyes widened. "This can't be," she murmured. Michael swallowed hard. "I think we need to do an ultrasound. Immediately." Dr. Anna nodded, anxiety creeping into her voice. "Prepare the machine. We need to find out what's happening to this girl." Outside the emergency room, Isabella stood up abruptly and clutched Mrs. Rose's arm. "Oh God, please. Please don't let anything happen to my daughter." The wind howled outside, and rain began pouring down in heavy sheets. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow over Clara's frail body. The ultrasound machine was set up, the screen flickering with grainy black and white images. Dr. Anna took a deep breath and placed the probe on Clara's abdomen. The moment the first image appeared, the entire room fell silent. Michael's eyes widened in shock. Another nurse, Victoria, covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh my God!" Victoria whispered. Dr. Anna forced herself to stay composed, but her heartbeat pounded in her ears. What she saw on the screen was undeniable. There was no mistake. Clara was pregnant. The ultrasound image was clear. A tiny fetus was growing inside the belly of this 13-year-old girl. Dr. Anna swallowed hard, her throat dry. This wasn't just a medical emergency. This was a tragedy. "Should we tell her mother?" Michael asked, his voice shaking. Dr. Anna tightened her grip on the ultrasound probe, inhaling deeply. "Bring Mrs. Isabella in. But let me speak to her first." Michael nodded and stepped out. Outside, Isabella was still trembling in fear. When she saw Michael emerge, his face pale, she felt like the ground beneath her was crumbling. "Nurse, my daughter, is she okay?" Michael avoided her gaze. "Dr. Anna wants to talk to you." Without hesitation, Isabella rushed inside. The moment she saw Clara lying there, eyes closed, she felt momentary relief. But when she met Dr. Anna's gaze, an even deeper terror gripped her heart. "Doctor, is Clara all right?" Dr. Anna looked her in the eye. "Mrs. Isabella. We've discovered the cause of Clara's pain and blood loss." Isabella held her breath. "You need to stay very calm." "Oh God, doctor, tell me. What's wrong with my daughter?" Dr. Anna took a slow breath and spoke each word carefully. "Clara is pregnant." The world collapsed. Isabella's eyes widened, her body frozen. A loud ringing filled her ears, like someone had just struck her head with a hammer. You said, what? Clara is pregnant." "No. That's impossible." Isabella shook her head furiously, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You must be mistaken. Clara is only 13. She can't. This can't be real." Dr. Anna's voice remained steady. "I wish I were wrong. But the results are undeniable." Isabella stumbled backward, clutching her head. "No. No. No." She collapsed onto the chair, her entire body trembling. Mrs. Rose, standing at the doorway, rushed in the moment she heard Isabella's scream. "Isabella! What's going on? Isabella looked up, her face pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. The doctor said. Clara is pregnant. Mrs. Rose froze, unable to say a word. In the hospital room, Clara suddenly stirred. She slowly opened her terrified eyes. The moment she saw the pain in her mother's gaze, tears welled up in her own. Clara. Isabella rushed to her, gripping her hand tightly. Sweetheart, the doctor must be wrong, right? You're not pregnant, are you? Clara pressed her lips together, her whole body trembling violently. The doctor made a mistake, didn't they, Clara? Isabella's voice was almost pleading. Clara remained silent, tears rolling down her cheeks. Dr. Anna sat down beside Isabella and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Mrs. Isabella, I need you to stay calm. I know this is incredibly difficult to accept, but right now, Clara is what matters most. We need to find out what happened. What happened? Isabella repeated in a daze. Then, suddenly, she turned to her daughter, grabbing her by the shoulders. Clara. Who did this to you? Who? Tell me. Clara burst into sobs but still didn't utter a word. Mrs. Rose took Isabella's hand, trying to steady her. Isabella, maybe she's not ready to talk yet. Isabella's hands slowly dropped. She lowered her head onto her daughter's bed. Clara. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. The room was thick with pain and despair. Clara could only clutch her blanket tightly, her small body trembling. Dr. Anna turned to Michael. Call the police. Michael nodded and quickly left the room. Outside, the rain poured harder, the wind howling through the cracks of the hospital windows like a sorrowful lament in the dark night. The heavy rain continued to pound against the hospital window, each drop falling with an eerie weight. The air inside the room was suffocating. Clara curled up, her face buried in her pillow, her entire body trembling. Isabella sat beside her, her eyes empty, unable to fully process the horrifying reality. The door suddenly swung open, and a deep male voice broke the silence. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sergeant James Montgomery. I received an urgent report from the hospital. James was a man in his 40s, with a sturdy build and sharp, observant eyes. He stepped into the room, his gaze briefly scanning the fragile girl on the hospital bed. A flicker of suspicion crossed his mind. Dr. Anna nodded and spoke firmly. This girl was admitted with severe abdominal pain and unusual blood loss. After examination, we discovered she is pregnant. Her mother, Mrs. Isabella, is still in shock. James glanced at Isabella, who remained motionless, her eyes glassy from disbelief. He lowered his voice, trying to be as gentle as possible. Mrs. Isabella, I'm sorry to ask this at such a difficult time, but this is very important. Do you have any idea who might be responsible for this? Isabella opened her mouth but couldn't find the words. James turned to Clara. Clara, can you tell me who did this to you? Clara remained silent. She pulled the blanket over her, her breathing becoming uneven and quick. James exchanged a look with Dr. Anna. He knew Clara was in a state of extreme fear. A 13-year-old child, so deeply traumatized, would not find it easy to speak. Just then, hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door burst open. Lucas! Isabella exclaimed, her voice filled with shock. Lucas, Clara's stepfather, stood at the entrance. He wore a dark coat, his neatly combed hair slicked back. His face remained expressionless, but there was something unsettling in his eyes. He stepped inside, scanning the room before his gaze settled on Clara. What's going on? I just heard Clara was taken to the hospital, he said, his tone eerily calm. Isabella jumped to her feet. Lucas, the doctor said. Clara is pregnant. Lucas raised an eyebrow, momentarily looking surprised. But he quickly regained his composure, shaking his head and sighing in feigned disbelief. There must be some kind of mistake. Clara is just a child. How could this be possible? James studied him carefully. Something was off. Lucas was far too composed for a situation like this. Dr. Anna stepped forward, her voice firm. The test results are accurate. We performed an ultrasound. Clara is pregnant. Lucas was silent for a moment. Then, he stepped closer to the bed and leaned slightly toward Clara. Clara, is there something you're not telling us? His voice was soft, but there was an undeniable undercurrent of control. Clara recoiled, pulling the blanket tightly over herself. James narrowed his eyes. Lucas, what is your relationship to Clara? He asked, deliberately emphasizing the question. Lucas turned to him with a forced smile. I'm her stepfather. I've raised her since she was little. Is that so? James nodded slightly, his gaze sharp. Do you have any idea who could be responsible for this? Lucas shrugged. How would I know? Clara is a good girl. She only goes to school and stays home. James noticed Clara still trembling beneath the blanket. She was clearly terrified. But terrified of whom? Dr. Anna gave James a knowing glance before quietly approaching Clara. She knelt beside the bed, her voice gentle. Clara, you don't have to be afraid. We are here to protect you. Clara's small frame shuddered slightly, but she still said nothing. Lucas suddenly spoke, his voice carrying an unsettling edge. Clara, say something. Don't make everyone worry. James immediately caught on to the pressure in his words. He stepped between Lucas and the girl, forming an invisible barrier. I think it's best if you don't force her to speak. Lucas let out a short, humorless chuckle, but his eyes turned cold. I'm just concerned for my daughter. James held his gaze for a few seconds before turning to Dr. Anna. I need to speak with Clara alone. Can we arrange that? Dr. Anna nodded. I'll take care of it. Lucas frowned, his irritation barely concealed. Wait a minute. She's just a child. Shouldn't her parents be present? James smirked slightly. If she's the victim of a crime, then it's our duty to protect her. Lucas clenched his fists. He didn't say anything, but his eyes were filled with something dark and unreadable. Isabella stood nearby, still trapped in shock. She looked at Clara, then at Lucas, her expression conflicted. She didn't want to believe it, but deep inside, a growing unease gnawed at her. Clara remained still, but beneath the blanket, her small hands clenched tightly. Silent tears streamed down her cheeks. Outside, the rain showed no sign of stopping. But inside this room, another storm was beginning to brew. The air in the hospital room grew tense, suffocating. A sense of unease crawled into every breath. Lucas stood there, hands in his pockets, his face unsettlingly composed, as if none of this concerned him. Clara remained silent, curled up under the blanket, as if trying to disappear. Isabella sat frozen, her mind blank, unsure of what to do or what to believe. James gave Lucas one last scrutinizing look before turning to Dr. Anna. I need to speak with Clara alone. Right now. Dr. Anna nodded and approached Isabella gently. Mrs. Isabella, it would be best if we allow the police to speak with Clara privately. Isabella blinked a few times before nodding weakly. Okay, as long as Clara feels safe. Lucas immediately protested. Hold on. I'm her stepfather. I have a right to know what she says. James turned to him, his gaze ice cold. Your rights here are not for you to decide. Lucas narrowed his eyes but forced a strained smile. I'm just worried about Clara. Thank you for your concern, James said coldly. But right now, the best thing you can do is leave the room. Lucas clenched his jaw but had no other choice. With visible reluctance, he turned on his heel and walked out, his eyes flicking toward Clara just before the door closed behind him. Clara shivered at that look. James let out a long breath and turned back to the girl. He sat down near the bed, maintaining a careful distance so as not to make her feel threatened. "Clara, I know you're very scared. But right now, it's just me and Dr. Anna here. No one can hurt you." Clara didn't react. Dr. Anna gently placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Clara, you don't have to endure this alone. We are here to help you." A strangled sob escaped Clara's throat. Her entire body trembled. James waited patiently. "Clara, you can tell me anything. I promise to protect you." Clara clenched her fists, her breathing ragged. Then, very slowly, she opened her mouth, her voice so faint it was barely audible. "He'll kill me." James's expression hardened. "He? Who, Clara?" Clara bit her lip, tears streaming down her face. "She needs time," Dr. Anna whispered. James nodded. He knew that children who had suffered deep trauma wouldn't open up easily. But he also knew one thing for certain: Clara was absolutely terrified. "Has someone threatened you, Clara?" he asked gently. Clara swallowed hard. He said, "If I told anyone, I would die." James clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay calm. "I promise you, no one will ever hurt you again. But you have to tell me who it is, so I can protect you." Clara sobbed. "It's Lucas." The air in the room froze. Dr. Anna exhaled shakily, her eyes welling with tears. James clenched his fists. He had suspected it from the beginning, but hearing it confirmed from Clara's own lips sent a deep ache through his chest. "Oh, dear God!" Dr. Anna murmured. Clara shook uncontrollably. "Please don't let him know. He'll kill me." James softened his voice. "Clara, I promise you, I won't let him hurt you ever again. That's a promise." At that moment, there was a knock at the door. A nurse stepped inside, looking tense. "Sergeant Montgomery, you have a visitor." James frowned. "Who?" "Lucas's lawyer. He's demanding to see you immediately." James gritted his teeth. That was fast. He turned to Dr. Anna. "Let Clara rest. I'll handle this." Dr. Anna nodded. James stood up and walked out. Lucas was leaning against the wall, arms crossed. Beside him stood a tall, thin man in a black suit, wearing glasses, professional, but ice-cold. "Sergeant Montgomery, I'm Samuel Reed, Mr. Lucas's attorney," the man introduced himself. James raised an eyebrow. That was quick. He barely left the hospital room, and he already has a lawyer? Samuel gave a thin smile. "My client has the right to legal protection." James crossed his arms. "So, what do you want?" "We want to ensure that Mr. Lucas is not treated unfairly. He is merely a concerned father looking out for his stepdaughter." James clenched his jaw. "Is that so? Then he has nothing to worry about. We're only protecting a 13-year-old girl who has been assaulted." Samuel adjusted his glasses. "There is no evidence linking Mr. Lucas to this case." James smirked. "Is that so? Let's wait until the investigation is complete before making any claims." Lucas remained silent, but his eyes flickered with irritation. Samuel sighed, then softened his tone. "We just want to remind you that any allegations must be legally substantiated. Without concrete evidence, my client has the right to sue for defamation." James let out a cold laugh. "We'll proceed according to the law. Thanks for the reminder." Samuel nodded, then turned to Lucas. "Let's go. I trust the authorities will handle this properly." Lucas cast one last glance at James before walking away. James stood still, watching them disappear down the hall. He took a deep breath, then pulled out his phone. "Hello. It's Montgomery. I need a surveillance order on Lucas immediately." The night sky outside was dark and heavy, raindrops pattering monotonously against the hospital roof. The hallway felt colder than usual, an eerie chill creeping through the walls. But inside Clara's hospital room, the fear was far worse. Clara remained curled up under the blankets, her eyes swollen from crying. James's words echoed in her mind, "We will protect you." But was that true? Or would Lucas find a way to return, to whisper more threats in her ear, just like every night before? Beside the bed, Isabella sat motionless, her expression hollow. Since hearing the truth from her daughter's lips, she had not shed another tear. Her emotions were too tangled, pain, guilt, and rage swirling inside her like a storm. Dr. Anna entered the room, carrying a cup of warm water. She set it down on the table before sitting across from Isabella. "You need to eat something, Isabella. If you collapse, Clara will be even more afraid." Isabella slowly lifted her gaze, her voice hoarse. "How can I eat when I fail to protect my daughter?" Dr. Anna sighed. "You can't change the past, but you can do everything in your power to protect her now." Isabella stared at her trembling hands, fingers interwoven in distress. "I don't know what to do, doctor. I don't even know where to begin." Dr. Anna gently took her hand. "The most important thing right now is ensuring Clara feels safe. She needs absolute protection." From the hallway, hurried footsteps approached. A familiar figure appeared at the hospital room door. "Lucas?" Isabella shot up, her body going rigid. He stood there, hands tucked into his coat pockets, his expression calm, but beneath the surface, a chilling coldness lurked in his eyes. "I came to see my daughter," Lucas said smoothly. Isabella instinctively took a step back. Clara immediately flinched, yanking the blanket over her head as if disappearing would make him go away. Dr. Anna stepped forward, standing protectively in front of Clara's bed. Her tone was firm. "You are not allowed in here." Lucas raised an eyebrow, smirking. "And why not? I'm her stepfather." "I've already called the police, Lucas," Isabella suddenly said, her voice shaking. "I know everything now." Lucas faltered for just a fraction of a second, but he quickly recovered, masking it with an indifferent shrug. "What are you talking about, Isabella? Are you really believing these lies?" "Clara doesn't lie." Isabella snapped, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Lucas let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head. "A panicked 13-year-old can say anything. And you're choosing to believe her over me?" "Enough, Lucas," Dr. Anna interjected, her voice unwavering. "The police are investigating. If you have anything to say, you can speak to them." Lucas narrowed his eyes at her, then turned back to Isabella. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "You're making a mistake, Isabella. Our family was fine. Are you really going to destroy everything?" Isabella shivered. Every word from his mouth felt like a dagger. She had once loved this man. She had once trusted him. But now? Family? Isabella let out a bitter laugh. "I was blind for so long. I never realized. You never saw me or Clara as family. We were just tools to you." Lucas's jaw tightened. "Isabella, you're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. I haven't done anything. If you keep this up, you'll regret it." Dr. Anna immediately stepped in front of Isabella. "You're threatening my patient right in front of me, Lucas." Lucas glanced at her, then smirked. "I'm just stating the truth." At that moment, the hospital room door swung open. "Lucas!" James's deep voice rang out with authority. Lucas turned around, frowning. "Sergeant Montgomery. You're just in time." James stepped inside, glancing at Isabella and Clara before fixing his gaze on Lucas. I have a few questions you need to answer at the police station. Lucas scoffed. Oh. I don't believe I'm obligated to go anywhere. James pulled a document from his coat pocket and held it up. I have a summons. You don't have the right to refuse. A dangerous glint flickered in Lucas's eyes, but he quickly masked it. Ridiculous. You're accusing me based on nothing but a child's words. James smirked. If you're innocent, then what do you have to worry about? Lucas clenched his fists but immediately relaxed, taking a deep breath and schooling his features back to calm. Fine. I'll cooperate. James signaled to the two officers accompanying him. They stepped forward, instructing Lucas to follow. Lucas turned back to Isabella one last time. You're making a huge mistake, Isabella. Isabella said nothing, only gripping her daughter's hand tighter. Clara peeked out from under the blanket, her heart pounding wildly as she watched Lucas being escorted away. But instead of relief, an even deeper fear settled inside her. The door shut, but his words of warning seemed to linger in the air. Dr. Anna gently squeezed Clara's hand. You're safe now, Clara. We'll protect you. But Clara continued to tremble. The fear inside her had not left. In the hospital room, Clara remained curled up under the blanket, her entire body trembling. Even though Lucas had been taken away by the police, her terror had not disappeared. His eyes, his voice still echoed in her mind, like a ghost she couldn't escape. Isabella sat close beside her daughter, holding her hand tightly, but Clara remained unresponsive. She seemed frozen in absolute fear. Dr. Anna stood beside the bed, concern etched across her face. She looked at Clara, then at Isabella. Mrs. Isabella. I believe we need to get a psychologist for Clara as soon as possible. Isabella swallowed hard, her voice raw from crying. Will she be okay, doctor? Dr. Anna sighed. Clara's body will recover, but her mind has suffered deep trauma. Isabella bit her lip, tears welling up again. How could I let this happen? I'm a terrible mother. No, Isabella. Dr. Anna placed a steady hand on her shoulder. This is not your fault. The only one to blame is Lucas. Isabella pressed her lips together, but she couldn't forgive herself. Suddenly, Clara flinched violently, gripping the blanket so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Her wide eyes filled with panic. He's here, he's watching me. Clara whispered, her voice shaking. Isabella gasped and wrapped her arms around her daughter. No, sweetheart. He's not here. You're safe now. But Clara only trembled harder. No, he won't leave me alone. I know he won't. Isabella held her tightly, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Anna frowned. I'll give her a mild sedative. She needs to sleep. Clara shook her head furiously. No. I can't sleep. He'll come. He'll come. No one can hurt you anymore, Clara, Dr. Anna reassured her, but Clara wasn't listening. She was drowning in her own terror. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. James stepped inside, his face grim. Where is he now? Dr. Anna asked immediately. We have Lucas in custody for questioning, James replied, but his tone lacked any sense of relief. Isabella looked at him, worry in her eyes. Custody? That means he could still be released. James clenched his fists. We need more evidence to officially charge him. Isabella went pale. No, that can't happen. He can't be free. James exhaled sharply. I know, but the legal system isn't simple. If we don't have solid evidence, he might find a way to slip through the cracks. Clara overheard this and broke into sobs. No. I can't live if he's still out there. James looked at her, his chest tightening. He knelt beside the bed, his voice steady. Clara, I promise you. I will do everything in my power to bring him to justice. But right now, you have to be strong. You have to help us find more evidence. Clara trembled but remained silent. James waited patiently. Does anyone else know about this, Clara? Did you tell anyone? Clara was quiet for a long moment before she shook her head. No one. I was too scared. James took a deep breath. What about letters, messages, or anything that could prove he threatened you? Clara blinked, thinking, then bit her lip. There were messages. But I deleted them all. James's jaw tightened. But then he remembered something. Where's your phone? Clara glanced at Isabella, who quickly retrieved the phone from her bag. James took it and turned to Dr. Anna. I need to call in a digital forensic specialist. If we can recover the deleted messages, they could be critical evidence. Dr. Anna nodded. I'll support you in any way I can. James placed a hand on Clara's shoulder, his gaze filled with sincerity. Clara, you are incredibly brave. You've endured so much, but now, you don't have to fight alone. We will protect you, no matter what. Clara looked at him, tears spilling over. She wasn't sure if she believed him, but for the first time, someone was telling her she didn't have to fight alone. In the hallway, an officer rushed in, his face tense. Sergeant Montgomery. We have a problem. James frowned. What is it? Lucas's lawyer has filed for his release. They claim we don't have enough evidence to hold him. The room went still. Isabella shot up from her chair. No. That can't happen. He'll come back. He'll come for Clara. Clara clung to her mother, her entire body shaking. James gritted his teeth. Damn it. Dr. Anna held Clara's hand tightly, trying to reassure her. No one will hurt you, Clara. We won't let him come back. But the fear in Clara's eyes said otherwise. In her heart, the nightmare was far from over. Outside the hospital window, rain continued to fall. Darkness cloaked the small town, and somewhere out there, Lucas might already be planning his next move. Outside the hospital, the rain had begun to ease. Weak rays of sunlight broke through the thick gray clouds, signaling a new day. But inside Clara's hospital room, no one felt relief. Isabella clutched her daughter's hand tightly, her eyes filled with worry. Clara remained silent, curled up, her face full of unease. The news of Lucas's potential release had sent her into a spiral of panic. James had just finished a phone call with his superior, his expression grave. He turned to Isabella and Dr. Anna. We have new information. Lucas has officially been arrested and will be prosecuted for serious charges. Isabella exhaled shakily, her eyes red with emotion. He'll never be able to touch my daughter again, will he? James nodded firmly. He won't escape. We recovered solid evidence from Clara's phone. Dr. Anna blinked. You mean? James held a file in his hands, his eyes cold and sharp. We had forensic specialists recover the messages Lucas sent to Clara. The threats, the times he warned her not to tell the truth, everything has been documented. Isabella trembled. She looked at her daughter, her voice choked with emotion. Clara, you don't have to be afraid anymore. We have the evidence. He will pay for what he did. Clara looked up at James, fear still lingering in her eyes. But what if he tries to escape? James knelt down to her eye level, his voice firm. I promise you, he will never hurt you again. Clara looked at him, then turned to her mother. She gripped Isabella's hand, and for the first time in days, a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes. At the St. James police station, Lucas sat in the interrogation room, his hands cuffed to the table. He maintained a composed expression, but in his eyes, there was a flicker of worry he couldn't hide. Across from him, James placed the file on the table and opened it, revealing printed images of the threatening messages Lucas had sent to Clara. "Mr. Lucas, do you have anything to say?" James asked coldly. Lucas scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "A few text messages don't prove I did anything wrong." James narrowed his eyes. "Oh really? What about your fingerprints on Clara's phone? Or the call history showing you contacted her late at night?" Lucas swallowed hard. James continued. "We also found traces of your presence in Clara's room, fibers from your clothing on her bed. And more importantly, the DNA results of the fetus have come back. Would you like to hear them?" Lucas stiffened. James smirked coldly. "Did you really think you could get away with this?" "Lucas, your game is over." Lucas clenched his fists, his composure finally cracking. The interrogation room door swung open. A police officer entered and handed James a new file. He flipped through it, then looked at Lucas with undisguised contempt. "The court has officially accepted the charges. You are being prosecuted. Your sentence could be up to 20 years, if not life in prison." Lucas slammed his fists on the table, shouting. "You can't do this to me." James's smirk didn't fade. "I already have." Lucas screamed in frustration, but deep down, he knew this time, he had truly lost. Back at the hospital, Isabella and Clara sat together on the hospital bed. A sense of relief filled the air, though traces of anxiety remained. The door opened. James stepped in, a warm smile on his face. "He's been officially charged. Lucas will never be able to hurt either of you again." Isabella clutched her daughter tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Thank God. This nightmare is finally over." Clara looked up at James, her voice trembling. "Is it really over, Uncle James? Am I truly safe now?" James nodded. "Yes. And not only that, Clara, you're going to get help to heal. You don't have to live in fear anymore." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they weren't tears of terror, they were tears of hope. Dr. Anna entered, smiling. "Clara, we're arranging for you to see the best psychologist. You won't have to go through this journey alone." Clara nodded, feeling the warmth of her mother's embrace. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly protected. Outside the window, the sun had finally risen. Soft golden rays streamed through the hospital window, illuminating Clara's face. She was still exhausted, but the panic in her eyes had faded. The battle wasn't entirely over, but for the first time in months, she knew Lucas would never be able to touch her again. Beside her bed, Isabella held her daughter's hand tightly. Her tears had long dried, but the weight of guilt still pressed heavily on her heart. "Sweetheart. I'm so sorry," Isabella whispered, her voice breaking. Clara looked at her mother, her eyes shimmering. "It's not your fault, Mom." Isabella shook her head, gripping her daughter's small hand tightly in her own. "I didn't see it. I didn't protect you the way I should have. If I had realized sooner." Dr. Anna, standing nearby, gently placed a reassuring hand on Isabella's shoulder. "Mrs. Isabella, don't blame yourself anymore. What matters now is that you and your daughter can start over, in a safe place." Isabella looked at Dr. Anna, hesitation in her voice. "I don't know if I can. I have nothing left." James, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. "You don't have to worry about that. There's a special program for abuse survivors and children in need of protection. If you agree, we'll help you and Clara relocate to a safe place, far away from all of this." Clara's eyes widened. "We're leaving?" James nodded. "Yes. A new city, a new home. There will be good people there who will always be ready to help you." Isabella squeezed her daughter's hand. "Can we really start over?" James smiled lightly. "Of course. You both deserve a better life. Isabella took a deep breath, then nodded firmly. Yes. I want that. Clara gripped her mother's hand tightly, tears spilling down her cheeks, but this time, they were tears of happiness. The St. James Courthouse. The small town's courthouse was packed. Lucas's trial had drawn the attention of the entire community. The people who had once viewed him as a respectable man now looked at him with disgust. Lucas sat in the defendant's seat, his face stripped of its usual arrogance. He knew this time, he wasn't getting away. The prosecutor stood, his voice firm. Your Honor, we are here today to prosecute Lucas Harrison. We have irrefutable evidence, including DNA results, the threatening messages he sent to the victim, and testimonies from the medical team and the victim herself. Lucas sat still, his hands clenched into fists. He knew he had no way out. His lawyer stood, trying to argue. Your Honor, my client denies all allegations. We believe the evidence could be manipulated or misinterpreted. The prosecutor smirked. Manipulated? Misinterpreted? Can your client explain why his DNA matches the fetus in the victim's womb? The courtroom fell silent. Lucas clenched his jaw, rage simmering in his eyes. The judge banged the gavel. Defendant, do you have anything to say? Lucas took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. I have nothing to say. The judge studied him for a long moment before solemnly declaring. Given the severity of the crimes committed by Lucas Harrison, which have caused irreparable harm to the victim and the community, the court sentences him to 25 years in prison without parole. The courtroom erupted. Some people clapped, others sighed in relief. Lucas screamed. No. I'm innocent. You can't do this to me. Two officers stepped forward, cuffing him. Lucas Harrison, you are officially remanded into custody. You have the right to remain silent. Lucas thrashed, but it was useless. He was dragged away, disappearing down the hall amidst murmurs of disdain from those who once knew him. Isabella clutched Clara tightly, tears streaming down her face. Sweetheart, we're free from him now. Clara leaned into her mother, a wave of relief washing over her. James approached, smiling. Now you two can truly start over. Isabella nodded, and for the first time in years, she felt truly free. That afternoon, Clara and her mother walked out of the courthouse. The sun shone warmly above them. Clara squeezed her mother's hand and whispered, Mom, I'm going to be strong. Isabella smiled, tears of happiness in her eyes. I believe in you. Together, they walked forward, leaving behind the pain of the past and stepping into a brighter future. A week after the trial, the atmosphere at St. James Hospital had become lighter. Clara was moved to a safe area within the hospital to continue recovering both physically and mentally. Isabella sat on the chair beside her daughter's bed. For the first time in days, she felt like she could breathe without the lingering sense of fear. Lucas had been convicted, the horrifying nightmare was over, but Clara's journey to overcome the trauma was still a long one. The door swung open, and Dr. Anna walked in with a warm smile. Clara, how are you feeling? Clara offered a small, hesitant smile. I feel better now. Dr. Anna nodded approvingly. That's good. Today, someone special wants to see you. Clara looked surprised. Who is it? At that moment, James stepped into the room, holding a small paper bag. He smiled kindly. Hello, Clara. I have a little gift for you. Clara's eyes widened, and she glanced at her mother, as if asking for permission to accept it. Isabella nodded encouragingly. James placed the bag on the bed, revealing a notebook with a purple floral cover. I heard from Dr. Anna that you like writing in a journal. Clara's eyes shimmered with emotion. How did you know? James chuckled lightly. We found an old journal of yours in your room. I thought that writing down your thoughts might help you feel a little lighter. Clara carefully opened the notebook, flipping through the crisp, blank pages. Suddenly, her throat tightened. It had been so long since she had been able to write down her feelings. "Thank you, Uncle James." Her voice trembled with gratitude. James nodded. "You're welcome, Clara. I just want you to know that you're not alone anymore." Clara lowered her head slightly, clutching the notebook tightly. Dr. Anna finished preparing the discharge papers. Today, Isabella and Clara would leave town to start a new life in the city. Outside the hospital, a car was waiting for them. The victim support program had arranged for Isabella and Clara to move into a small apartment in Boston, where they could begin again. Isabella turned to Dr. Anna, gripping her hands tightly. "Thank you, Doctor. If it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened to us." Dr. Anna smiled warmly. "You don't have to thank me, Isabella. You and your daughter have been incredibly brave. I believe you both will have a much better life ahead." Clara stepped forward and hugged Dr. Anna tightly. "I'll miss you so much, Doctor." Dr. Anna gently stroked Clara's hair. "I'll miss you too, Clara. But remember what I told you, stay strong and keep moving forward, okay?" Clara nodded firmly. James stood nearby, observing the heartfelt moment. When Isabella turned to him, she struggled to find the words to express her gratitude. James understood. He simply placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Live well, and never look back." Isabella teared up, but this time, it wasn't out of sorrow, it was relief. Clara looked at James for a moment, then suddenly stepped forward and hugged him. "Thank you, Uncle James. Thank you for saving me." James hesitated for a brief second before returning the hug gently. "It's nothing, Clara. You deserve to be protected." The car started moving, leaving the small town behind. Clara gazed out the window, watching as the familiar streets slowly disappeared from view. She reached for her mother's hand. "Mom, are we really free now?" Isabella ran her fingers through Clara's hair, her voice tender. "Yes, sweetheart. Now, we have a fresh start, a new life." Clara nodded, then looked down at the journal James had given her. She opened the first page, picked up a pen, and wrote the very first words of her new life. "Today is the first day of freedom." Isabella glanced over and saw her daughter's neat handwriting. She smiled softly. The sun shone brightly on the road ahead, signaling a future filled with hope waiting for them. The story of Clara carries a profound lesson about courage, justice, and love. Children need to be heard and protected from those who seek to harm them, and justice will always stand by the victims. Isabella, though initially unaware of the truth, showed the strength of a mother's love by standing up to protect her daughter. This highlights that a mother's love is one of the strongest forces in the world. The support from Dr. Anna and James underscores the vital role of the community in protecting the vulnerable. Most importantly, no matter how painful the past is, we can always look forward to a brighter future.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.